police, when you have the police roll call, the lieutenant stands up there and tells you what happened on the watch before. They talk about any crime patterns that's occurring in your beat or sector, and they tell you what vehicles to watch out for, that they may be looking for suspects of robberies or LFAs, larceny from autos, or whatever. And it's just sort of an overview of what's happening. And what happens is the patrol officers, in between their calls for service, they're on the lookout for these things to try to stop crime before it happens. And that's the fear, if we're not careful, we get into. You don't have enough officers to actually to be more proactive, which is part of this law that we're talking about, where they've watered down an officer's ability to do his job. Recently, the legislature changed things around a little bit with police powers, where they're saying that police officers cannot arrest for misdemeanors that occur in their presence. Things like if they catch a peeping Tom out in a neighborhood, or if someone steals your wife's purse right in front of the police officer, the legislature has mandated the officers is not to arrest that person, that they're to issue them a ticket. Well, the problem is a lot of these so-called misdemeanor crimes lead to solving other more serious crimes, because when you arrest that purse snatcher that you just caught, and then you search him and you find he's got 3 other wallets on him, or he's got the ID of some lady that was killed on his person that you've discovered, that you would not have discovered had you not arrested him for that petty crime, then that murder never gets solved. And that's a big percentage of the crimes that get solved occur as a result of these misdemeanor arrests that police are really not allowed to do anymore. So it's taken away the proactive edge, the proactive advantage. It's taking a tool away from the police officer that's very, very important.
Well, how that came about, this is that, it's called House Bill 463. And our legislators, our state representatives and our state senators in Fayette County, for sure, all voted for this.
Wow.
And of course, we're starting to hear now. I mean, they were very busy patting themselves on the back about doing this, because they think, oh, see, we're going to be able to reduce the prison population.
Well, I guess if you don't arrest criminals, you'll reduce the prison population.
Right.
That's one way to do it, right?
Well, that's right. And now
that's robbing Peter to pay Paul, but whatever.
All of a sudden, they're starting to catch some abuse, some criticism over this, and now almost the first thing they say is, look, it wasn't our fault. You see, the county judge executives came to us and said, we need you to give us a little relief in the jails, because the jails cost so much. So now, rather than patting themselves on the back for the whole thing, they're now starting to say, no, it's the county judge executives that caused this to happen. And you know, I want to talk about this whole thing a little bit more, but it's very scary.
Sure it is.
If you believe that the safety of our citizens is the or one of the primary responsibilities of government, they have seemed to they put a price tag on public safety, and they've kind of thrown it under the bus.
Well, there's an officer safety aspect to this too. It's one of the things that gets me so wound up, because I was a police officer for 21 years. And I'll tell you right now, when you're on a traffic stop out there at 2 in the morning and you're by yourself, and you walk up to the car and you smell marijuana, and you see evidence that this person's smoking dope, or you see some other crime that's occurred, you've got to make a decision. And your decision normally is to go ahead and take control of that person before the situation escalates. So you know, I'd ask them to get out of the car, and I wouldn't say, what's in your pocket, if I knew what was going on, or I would go ahead and arrest them and handcuff them to secure them immediately. Now, what they've done is they put us in a situation where they're telling us to write tickets to some of these people, and that just gives more time for something bad to happen. That's, you know, you're not really ever in control of that suspect, because you can't handcuff them. You know, you're not supposed to handcuff them unless you arrest them. So you've got somebody there that you're going to write a ticket to, you know, for something, and your instinct is telling you, you know what, I probably need to take charge of this person right now and get them secured before they can come up with some scam to run or to assault me or whatever. So you know to get your hands on them, get them into custody. It's a safety issue too for the police officer. He or she should be able to make that decision right there based on everything he knows, the whole situation, not the legislature saying, well, just hold on, see if you can maybe keep from having to fight this guy while you try to give him a ticket. It's insane. They didn't even think about that aspect of it. I know they didn't.
It's all about money, Don. It's all about money. One of the things that was interesting that I learned about this past week was from Cincinnati. The police officers are firing their guns more than they ever have before in Cincinnati. For example, the past month they fired their guns in situations more that month than the entire year of 2010. Now, that kind of follows up with so why is that happening? I'll tell you what's happening. People are less afraid of consequences because there are no consequences to speak of in many of these situations. For example, you get the ticket. That's not a consequence to criminals. No. Criminals most of them don't care if they got another felony.
And most
they just don't want to go to prison.
Yeah, they also, a lot of them carry false IDs and give you false names, and a ticket, you got a 50-50 shot of getting the right person anyway to write a ticket. That's the other aspect of this. When you bring someone in custody and you take them down and you arrest them for this peeping in this girl's window at 2 in the morning, or you arrest them for stealing this lady's purse, or you arrest them for menacing or threatening someone, you get them down to the jail IDs them. They fingerprint them. They will not let them out of jail until they at least know who they are. So you at least got the right person. Because the other consequence of this, writing tickets for crimes, is these criminals are going to catch on to this, and they're going to get false IDs, give police officers false information. They could steal your identity, Ray Larson, and say, I'm Ray Larson, and if they got your social security number and they can pull it off, the officer has to give them a ticket. And then you 3 months later, you're driving down the road and you get pulled over for minor traffic violation. The officer, runs you for warrants, and because that dude didn't show up for court under your name, guess what? You're going to jail.
Well, everybody know better than that. If it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, I've been asleep for hours.
But that's just another consequence of not taking people. And listen, police officers have always had the option of writing tickets for virtually any crime. There's a couple exceptions: domestic violence, DUI. Those are crimes that you must arrest for, but you don't have to arrest for murder. You can write a ticket for that. We've had that option. Why would you do that? Well, you may do that if a guy shoots someone and then shoots himself and he's in a coma, laying in the hospital. You can go ahead and write him a ticket and leave it on the nightstand there. You don't have to take him into custody. That doesn't do any good. And I'll tell you another example. Even for dope, for marijuana. I've come across people before that had dope and made the decision, because this person will tell me, they'll say, hey, listen, man, if you don't lock me up for this, if you won't lock me up for it, I can give you a bigger fish. Right? You know what? There was a robbery and a murder that happened a couple of weeks ago. I know who did it. If you can work with me, I'll give you the information. In that particular case, I might go, you know what? I'll tell you what, buddy. You tell me what I need to know, and I will give you a ticket, and we'll just work with you. And you scratch them off the ticket, you get the information from them, you've cut them a break, but you still have that person in your pocket there, because you can change that to a warrant anytime you want. It's a tool to help solve crimes. And I know that's happened on several murders where we do that, exchange information for lesser charges, or for at least not locking them in jail. I just can't believe they took that option away, to not give the officers, the person on the front line that are defending us every day, the permission to use their common sense for what's best to do their job.
Tune in to the following stations every Sunday to hear full episodes of In Touch with Ray the DA and Don Evans.